And you're very welcome back. It is OTB AM this Monday morning. Time for us to turn our attention to football. And after a dramatic finale to this season, it turns out Liverpool will be playing Champions League football next season. David Meyler, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Ger.
That is the archetypal squeaky bum time that we've just seen over the last 4 or 5 weeks from a Liverpool perspective. Klopp was absolutely beaming in the aftermath, kind of feeling like this was some important emotional, psychological achievement for a team who's already won the Champions League and who's already romped home as Premier League winners, but he feels like there was something special going on. Is he right to do that? You know, is he right actually that coming through this is a real sign of the mentality monsters that he's bred?
No, definitely. I think if you look back, if we go back, say, 11, 12 games ago, it looked like it was done for Liverpool. It looked like they had no chance of getting into the Champions League football. Obviously, to get there in the end and kind of, stumble your way to third, of course, the teams will be disappointed in how it's turned out for them. But it was massive for Liverpool. That club needs Champions League football. Felt like it was gone to turn around the performances, the amount of wins they've had. It did feel like something for them, something to build on. It was kind of that last gasp of something they could take into the summer to kind of, recharge and refresh them. So obviously next season will be totally different because they'll have a lot of players back from injury. Certainly, the centre-halves in Van Dijk and Gomez, etc. So it did feel like something massive for them, yeah.
The other thing, I suppose, is that the quality of play was transformed when eventually the midfielders went back into midfield and centre-backs who were Premier League standard, it turns out. And maybe they're mediocre Premier League standard, maybe they're going to turn into good players over the next 3 or 4 years. We'll wait and see what they do. It's almost like a penny dropped with Klopp as well, and that kind of transformed the team's ability on the field.
No, definitely. Look, when centre-halves got injured, you looked at, he kind of moved 2 or 3 players around. It was Fabinho moved into defence and then someone else moved to midfield. And they almost lost their balance as opposed to just replacing the centre-halves and keeping the midfield the same. It just probably got to the point, obviously, after January, where he did manage to sign back. Obviously, Nat Phillips came through, Reece Williams as well. But he kind of said, I'm going to leave Fabinho in midfield and I'm just going to have to deal with the defenders and try and get us back to somewhat, a normal kind of play style. And look, Fabinho was incredible in his time playing at centre-half. He did really well. But you could just see the overall improvement to him, and what he can bring to the team when he went back into midfield. So it was a massive thing for them. If they can keep, that kind of midfield cog going, it looks like, next season will probably be Fabinho, Thiago and Henderson. I imagine they'll try and, sign another midfielder now with Wijnaldum leaving. But it was very important at that time because, look, you just see the impact that Fabinho had in midfield. And obviously that helped Liverpool massively towards the end of the season.
In hindsight, David, was that a big error of judgment from Klopp? Because the stats are pretty stark. The last 8 games that Fabinho started in the centre midfield, Liverpool won. The previous 8 games that he started at centre back, they failed to win. That actually making such dramatic changes by his time bringing both Fabinho and Henderson into centre back, he made what was a big problem an even greater problem.
I think he'll have looked at that, Nathan. He'll gone over it and kind of. But it's also that safe pair of hands. Excuse me. You know what you're getting from Fabinho when he goes in centre-half. He's an experienced professional who's been around a long time. He did put in good performances at centre-half, but you're getting a second effective Fabinho as opposed to one who plays midfield. Like you touched on there, the games he starts midfield, they do manage to win more of them. It would have been a matter of time where they've kind of said, what have we done different? And he just probably said, that's why, look, towards the end there, you've seen Nat Phillips and Reece Williams playing centre-halves when you wouldn't have expected to see those two. It'd been quite easy to, put Milner in midfield and, keep Fabinho alongside one of them just for that, bit of experience. But he said, no, I'm just going to stick with these young lads and go with it. So imagine there was a turning point where he said, we just have to go back to what we know and kind of keep our midfield as strong as it can be.
Nathan, you did have
just one more on Liverpool.
Fabinho in your team of the.
He was, but they had Henderson then. And here, we want to go to stats. I think Liverpool have lost 1 game with Henderson in midfield in the last 3.5 years. So they've had injury upon injury, and let's not go over that all over again and have the same row that we had 3-4 months ago when ultimately I was right, Jer.
I mean, you've just confessed to being wrong, but that's all right. Go on.
Just one last thing on Liverpool. The England squad is being announced tomorrow, and all the reports this morning seem to suggest that Alexander-Arnold isn't going to be in it. That around Liverpool, they're not expecting Alexander-Arnold to be in that squad. When you look at how important he has been for Liverpool over the last month and how he seems to have responded to being left out, this seems like insanity.
100%. He has to be in. He has to be in it. Like, there's no doubting. Like, look, of course, Kyle Walker, you'll have Reece James, Kieran Trippier. There are good fullbacks. But going forward, certainly you'd expect England, a team like England, are going to win competition. You're going to be on the front foot attacking. You can't defend. So they're going to. Trent is the best of the lot of them going forward. You even seen, Nathan, you're a Liverpool supporter. When you watch Liverpool, when things are going well, it's coming from the fullbacks, and the majority of the time it's coming from Trent. Like, look, I'm not a manager. Obviously, it's Garrett's decision. But if they're going to deploy, the three centre halves with the wing backs, that wing back role will suit Trent Alexander-Arnold perfectly. You can play Kyle Walker as the right side centre half, who's an abundance of pace. He's good experience. He'll be able to deal with all that. I can't believe for a second that that he won't be included. You have to bring your best players, and he is one. He's one of the best, defenders, right back, say, going forward. Of course, look, you can raise question marks over his defensive stuff, but that can be worked on. So I don't believe that he won't be in it. He has to be in it.
Well, we wait with bated breath to see exactly what happens, especially with the slightly bigger squads and all. For those decisions, you can give everybody, you can put them in the squad, give everybody 2 or 3 weeks, let whoever plays well in training decide your team, and then pick it on that. Let's move on, because we've been picking teams of the season, and we're very interested in yours. There was a big debate that the football men in our stable have decided that there was a shoe-in at right back, but we won't get there. The goalkeeper is fairly obvious, is it for you?
Emi Martinez, yeah. Look, I don't know, is he broken? He's equalled Brad Friedel's Premier League, clean sheet record at Aston Villa. What a sign he's been. He's transformed them, his performances week in, week out. The saves he makes, very good distribution. He's been incredible. Like, of course, you could probably touch on Chelsea's Mendy. Come in, he's done extremely well. Of course, Ederson is another one who's had a good season. I think Emi Martinez deserves it. You look at Villa; they've done well. I think he's been massive for them.
I think everybody agrees Luke Shaw is the best left back in English football this year. The transformation that he has had was another stick to beat Jose Mourinho with, and that's fair enough. Your centre back partnership, Ruben Diaz, was the Football Writers' Player of the Year, which I think is fair enough as well. But you have gone for Harry Maguire as his partner. Yeah.
Look, I was torn between Stones and Maguire. I think, Stones has been terrific this year. He's very unfortunate to miss out, but I just feel Harry has really almost grown up at Manchester United. Come under a lot of scrutiny with obviously the price tag costing 80 million, some poor performances. I just feel now, if you looked in the last couple of games United have played since he's been out, you can see how much they miss him. He's kind of that vocal point. He kind of holds them together, and I think he's really come on leaps and bounds. And I think maybe it's the friend in me, I don't know, but I think he's had a very good season. I think he should be very happy with how he's performed. I hope he's fit for them for the Europa League final. I don't know yet, but I think he's done really well.
Yeah, I think that in his absence, we see the value of him even more. It's one of those players when it happens. So your right back, Luke Ayling, was the best right back in English football according to Nathan, and he cozied up to John Giles last Thursday night, shamelessly urging Giles to put him in his team. Giles is going to do it. You don't have Luke Ayling in your team.
No, got Soufal. It's a tough one, isn't it? Luke Ayling's had a terrific season. It's been brilliant. I'd love to know. I think he's probably played every game, nearly every minute of every game. He seems to be just running up and down all the time. But I don't know, Soufal, I know there's just something special about him. He kind of comes in. He's been a mainstay in West Ham's team. He's played week in, week out, put in terrific performances. He's almost, for me, he's a bit like Manchester City's Zabaleta. That kind of, build the performances, very, very good 1v1 defender. And I think, he's been massive to West Ham. Of course, look, Souček as well as another one that's been there, and I don't have him in my team, but they've been great signings coming into English football. Certainly Soufal not knowing a lot, and then to turn out incredible performances and be the main part of West Ham's back four for the season to get them into Europa League is it's enough for me to put him in ahead of Luke Ayling.
And look, I totally get that. Everybody's raving about Ayling and his performances. There's no hint of him being in the England squad or close to it. Is that just... That's just...
Southgate name-checked him, I think, for the last squad, but they have so many right-backs. When Alexander-Arnold isn't making it in, I think Ayling is probably 2 or 3 rungs down from that. But
even if he's the player of the year, though, like sometimes I do feel like English football decides that so Kieran Trippier is there because he's played in the team in the past, but actually if somebody's playing better right now,
Trippier has just been part of the Atletico Madrid team that have won La Liga, and by all accounts people who are watching La Liga every week say he's been outstanding. He's been the best right back in La Liga, and he's done it for England, he's done it for Southgate. But yes, English football has done that a lot. Ayling is probably unfortunate and he's at the position where they're absolutely stacked.
And even there, like Wan-Bissaka's another one. No, I'm not saying this year he's been unbelievable or better than other players, but he's another one that's a right back for England, and he doesn't really get a sniff around there. So it's going to be very tough for Luke Ayling.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Midfield, Bruno, I think everybody agrees, is right there. You've gone for N'Golo Kante and Kevin De Bruyne alongside him.
Yeah.
This is a very attacking team you're playing, and I like it.
Yeah, but I've got N'Golo Kante playing his whole midfielder, and I've got Bruno and KDB in front of him. I don't think I need much defending. Bruno and KDB work hard, but N'Golo will do enough running for the team. I just think, since Tuchel's come in, there's always this big debate over, like, team of the season is obviously a year long. People kind of get short memories thinking it's from January onwards. Like people were calling for Jesse Lingard to be in team of the season. Obviously then Bruno last year came in January and he was in team of the season. So it's always a tough one. And I certainly think with, Kante, he didn't get the rub of the green under Frank. Frank was kind of playing him here, there and everywhere. Then Tuchel's kind of came in, and you look back to his first few press conferences, he spoke really highly of N'Golo Kante and said he was really looking forward to working with him. And I think he's found, well, it's not that he's found, he knows what's best for N'Golo Kante. And that's just to play him, do what he does. And I think, like, since he's come in, he's been one of the best midfielders in, not only the Premier League, but, the Champions League. You've seen with his performances. And that if Chelsea are going to beat Manchester City next weekend, that N'Golo Kante has to put in another massive performance, which he will more than likely. Whether they'll win, I don't know. But he has to be in there.
If Chelsea win, we're going to end up talking about N'Golo Kante's semi-final performances the way we talk about Roy Keane and Sheeran. That's the level I thought those performances were at. But you've got to win. The trophy has to be there at the end. So retrospectively you go, that was incredible. That was where we were at. But it was as good as you've ever seen somebody play from midfield. In all aspects of play, like close control, a little bit of dribbling, tackling, pressing, passing. It was just absolutely sensational. So I think a shoe-in as well. Your front three is Foden, Kane and Mo Salah, who was left out of Nathan's team. Can you believe it? No Mo Salah in Nathan's team.
I get it. Has to be probably a special mention for Heung-min Son. United fans will probably claim Rashford. Manchester City fans will probably claim Riyad Mahrez. It's been a good season for Salah, as in overall, but personally, look, to lose out in Harry Kane on the last day for the Golden Boot, I think his goal scoring has still been up there. I don't think that can be, dismissed for a player who's been constantly knocked back, saying he's, struggling, he's not in great form. He's still managing to score so many goals. That's why I gave him the nod probably more over Heung-min Son, because I think, what is Kane finished with 23? I think Salah's 22. Like, those numbers are off the charts. Like, they're still, he's turning out 20 plus in inevitably a year that Liverpool have struggled, for large parts, and, they stumble their way to third. But, Salah has scored goals, and, I have to take my hat off to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sané and Firmino's form being so bad for so long meant that he shouldered the burden of scoring goals for the team when the team was playing really badly, and he kept coming up with big goals in league games, which is the sign of a great player. Kane he's had one of his best ever seasons in terms of creativity, his evolution as a player. You could argue this is his peak.
Yeah, no, you'd have to. Was 23 goals, 14 assists. He's the first player since 1993-94 to win both the assist maker and the goal scoring. There's a little quiz question for the two of you if you know the answer to that.
Andy Cole.
Oh, you read it as well on Twitter like I did yesterday.
I don't think they gave Andy Cole a trophy like they gave Harry Kane, though.
No, but look, unbelievable. You know, the goals he scores, his range of passing. We've seen it. Certainly, I think most evident one was early on the season, you know, when he dropped deep in the Southampton game and he gave the 4 assists to the Son. He just showed off his, you know, range of passing. He's just been unbelievable. And then with the whole, you know, with the interview with Gary Neville on the overlap thing, you know, just to kind of, he's really putting himself out there that he wants to go and win those individual trophies. And then, you know, to win these awards kind of says to Tottenham, look, I'm doing my bit here. You're not kind of following me, or you're not helping me as much as you could do. So, you know, he's definitely one of the best strikers in the world. No doubt in that.
The music around him has been, it's definitely going to happen. He's definitely going to leave. But Daniel Levy still holds all the cards. What's your instinct? Where will he be playing at the start of next season or when the transfer window shuts?
Chelsea. Right. I've a lot of my friends, Manchester United fans, and we kind of have this conversation all the time, a bit like you guys will, or anyone, you know, watching or listening will do. You're kind of, I think in Harry Kane's mind, Manchester City's number one. He goes there and, you know, look, they'll nearly cement, you know, 2 or 3 league titles in the next 4 years. There's no doubting that. They'll probably push for, you know, Champions League again. They'll pick up FA Cups, C Cups. That's kind of the standout one where he'd gone to. Whether or not Manchester City are willing to spend 100 to 150 million on a 28-year-old who, you know, look, his injury record's not fantastic. There's no resale value. Of course, whether they'd look at that. I did see an interesting piece yesterday where Harry Redknapp said managers are only actually looking at the next 2 seasons because football's such a short-term game that, you know, they could be sacked. I think the other one then I said would be Chelsea, mainly because Chelsea under Tuchel have massively improved. They're crying out for a centre forward, a number 9 who's going to get you 20, 25, 30 goals a season. We know Harry Kane could do that. The massive thing I said to my friends was, it's also London. He doesn't have to up and ship his family. He's 3 children. I believe he's a newborn as well. So people might think that's nonsense, but that does factor into a player's decision. It does become messy like that, you know, up and shipping your family, regardless of how much money you earn. And I think third is Manchester United. Now, this is just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but will Manchester United spend the money? They're talking about, you know, Rafa Varane and Jadon Sancho. Cavani obviously extends his contract. It's whether or not they see Greenwood as a future number 9. So then they could go for the Sancho and kind of bring Greenwood into the middle, and then he can learn from Cavani and they can kind of, you know, rotate the games, whatever. It's all up in the air, but I definitely do think Harry Kane's time is done with Tottenham. I found the interview with Gary Neville quite disrespectful to Spurs. If I'm being completely honest, I kind of felt there was kind of no need for him to do it. He was almost pushing his agenda. If you look back and you can take a lot out of it, in terms of you saying, look, if Daniel Levy's offered 100 million, you'll probably take it because in 2 or 3 years' time, I won't be worth that. So I imagine there's been a lot of conversations behind closed doors between Harry Kane, probably his family, his representatives of kind of, you know, the representatives who have spoken to clubs. He'll have a fair idea of what's on the table. I think the last hurdle is how much. I think it's just a Daniel, I can get you 100 million. Are you happy with that? Etc. etc. But I definitely think he's gone from Spurs.
Okay, that is really interesting stuff. I have one last question for you. You put a picture of you up against Sergio Aguero on your Twitter feed yesterday. he's leaving the Premier League, going to Barcelona, obviously. More goals for one Premier League side than anybody else in Premier League football history, obviously since 1992. But an amazing career, like an incredible player. What was he like to play against?
Horrible. Just because he's I don't know exactly his height, but he's about 5'7", 5'8", low centre of gravity. You can see the size of his backside, his calves, his legs. He just has that power, that ability to turn. He's sharp. And the thing is, look, he's just a natural goal scorer. You look at people who have a knack of appearing the right spot, the right time. That's it's like that street footballer. Like even as you listen to his post-match interview yesterday, after he kind of, he's talking about, I want to score goals. That's how I score goals. And that's what he is. He's a goal scorer. He's brought so many incredible moments to Manchester City's history, even to the Premier League's history, with the goals he scored. But in my times playing against him, he was phenomenal. You never got a moment of peace. He's always moving. He's not scared to take someone on 1v1. He's not, to go right foot, left foot. He'll go either way. A brilliant servant to Manchester City in the Premier League. And it's a shame because, it's that kind of the last player of the, the first title-winning team of, Joe Hart, David Silva, Vincent Kompany, all those. And obviously Sergio was a main part of that team, scoring that iconic goal against QPR. But it's a shame that they're kind of all coming to an end, but I suppose all great things do.
Yeah, and maybe that's why we appreciate them more, is that we only have them for such a short period of time. David, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
David Meyler giving us his thoughts there this morning. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on WhatsApp 087 9 180 180. There's a bit of debate about the team of the year, but mostly there's 8 or 9 fairly common.
Yeah, I think so. In those attacking positions, it's very hard to leave out Salah, De Bruyne, Foden, but I said last night, you can make a case for Mahrez, for Gundogan, for Heung-min Son, who in that first half of the season was sensational. If you flipped Heung-min Son's season, he'd probably be in it if he'd done it in the last 3 or 4 months. So, yeah, it's a lot of very good quality attacking players in that team. And they said the ones who are nailed on are probably Harry Kane and Luke Shaw. Pretty much everything else feels like it's up for debate. Ruben Diaz at centre-back as well. But aside from that, we'll miss Aguero. Has there been a more iconic player in the last 10 years? Has there been a more important player in the Premier League over the last 10 years?
I don't think so.
For what he's done, when he was fit, you could guarantee he would score 20 plus goals a season. Obviously, he scored, as David said, the most iconic goal in the history of the Premier League. And he was just so bloody good to watch. Of all the players I'd say I've commentated on over the last 6-7 years, he's the one you wanted to see, because he could score every type of goal. I saw Miguel Delaney going through the stats of what he would do, and whether it was a close range finish, but everything had that touch of class. And I would love to see him actually get a run out next weekend in the Champions League final and maybe get that finale that he certainly feels he deserves, because it feels he's not too happy with how it ended at Manchester City, despite Pep's tears yesterday.
It'll be very interesting to see. I saw speculation Messi has decided he's going to stay, so it'll be very interesting to see what kind of partnership they have and whether or not that fires them to glory in Qatar. We'll see if that partnership can have one last tour of the battlefield.